Good afternoon, everyone. We're so excited to have you again. So on behalf of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, the Jackson, Mississippi Alumni Chapter, we're eagerly excited to have our HBCU presidents here today. How excited to have all of these dignitaries in one forum. So again, if you're joining us for the very first time, then let me just tell you what's been happening the last six months or so. This HBCU campaign has been ongoing and we've been getting some tremendous financial support. Our goal is to raise $100,000, just $100,000. And believe it or not, we are probably about over 75% there. Our deadline for our donations is May 31st. So want to encourage you all out there to continue to donate to whether it's your school or schools or whatever your affiliation may be. We're excited to have you to be a part of this fundraising campaign. So kudos to our chapter and of course our president, Mrs. Gwen Handy, who of course could not be with us this afternoon. And then we've had a committee has been working tremendously within these last couple of months. And that of course is our social action chair, Akia Jones, with her co-chairs as Margaret Barnes and of course, Sharita Young. A lot of hard work has gone out. A lot of conversations has been going on about this particular event. And so we're excited to have just as many folks on the line as we've had before. Our last conversation a few months ago where we had this same type forum and we had these same wonderful people here with us. We had great dialogue about the importance of historical Black colleges and universities. And so again, we hope to have an even more engaging conversation. So we hope those of you out there, any burning question that you have, we do ask that you put them in the chat. So I do know that we will have one of our presidents would have to leave early, but let me just go ahead and introduce all of them to you. And why am I doing this? You all don't need any introduction. Everyone knows who you are and all the work that you've done in our community, but protocol, I'll go ahead and officially introduce you. So first of all, of course, again, I want to encourage you, those of you in the chat, I don't think we can sit on this side, but you're welcome to do so. I know you're going to give the shout out to your school or to your president or what have you. Do feel free to do so. I said it before and I say it again, the chat room, we're prepared for it because we know when it comes to this school, somehow it becomes a little competitive. So with that being said, I want to introduce our first president representing Alcorn State University. We have Dr. Felicia M. Nave, and we're glad to have her. We also have representing Jackson State University, Mr. Thomas K. Hudson. He's a Juris Doctorate, as most of you know. And of course, there is Mississippi Valley State University, Dr. Gerald Briggs, and Dr. Briggs would have to leave earlier. Or early, should I say. So we will let you lead in the questions when we begin. And also there's our lovely Rusk College representative, Dr. Ivy-R. Taylor. And we're equally excited to have you here. And as one of our supporters of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority and a sister. So we're equally excited to have you. And by all means, we have the Tougaloo College. I know, the Jackson State, but the Tougaloo College being our last coming up the rank is Dr. Carmen Walters. We're glad to have you. And I know that you're still on that natural high from having Gladys Knight at your event. So we had a fantastic time and it was great to see you all. So again, you know the tremendous work that you've done. And we're glad that you're all here again, just to share some of the insight about what's going on your campuses, as the year ends and of course, what's in store for next year. So as you see, our topic is the past, present, and continuing importance of historically Black colleges and university. So we're going to keep that dialogue going again. So I'm going to start with our very first question to all of you, but I'd like for Dr. Briggs, given the fact that I understand you will have to leave at about 6:15, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But we're still excited you're here to share the time that you are going to share with us. So the very first question I'd like to ask is, could you each please share the importance of HBCUs receiving unrestricted donations or funding? And what are some of the current pressing issues you have that unrestricted fundings or donation would solve? Okay. So
Great.
Dr. Breeze, Mississippi
All right.
State University.
Well, first, Ms. Tucker, let me thank you and all the women of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for having this tremendous opportunity. And to my fellow presidents, hello. It's good to see everyone here this evening. I do regret having to leave early. This is just a great conversation, but unfortunately I do. But to get to the question, I think it's paramount as we seek donations to have some flexibility as far as how we prioritize what our universities need. I think we each have some pressing needs on our campuses. And so when we have those unrestricted dollars, it allows us that flexibility to really focus on things that may be immediate, but also looking at the long-term aspects and effects as well. So to be able to have that flexibility, be it through additional scholarship support or just operational support, is just tremendous. And we need that. Because again, a lot of times when you get donations, it may be restricted, and that donor may have something that they really have a passion for. And don't get me wrong, we're going to take it. We absolutely are. But to have some flexibility in really looking at the priorities for the university that we really need, I think is equally important. So I always look for both opportunities. But as I said, we're going to take the donations and make the best of it to assure that our students have a successful opportunity and really get that quality education that I know all of our institutions are providing.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And right before I allow the next one to respond to that question, I do have our president who did join us, Ms. Handy. Okay. And also, I do want to recognize the other co-chair, Ms. Whitaker. Y'all know the importance of protocol. These people worked hard, so I certainly wanted them to get that their accolades. So, in any particular order, with the next one, if you would like to respond to that question as well.
Well, I'll jump in. I echo Dr. Briggs' sentiments in terms of the need for those unrestricted dollars. When we look at Jackson State, for instance, I would look to what we've been able to do in the past when we have been fortunate to receive those unrestricted donations. What it does is really allows you to build your capacity in a couple of key areas. Number one, which we'll all mention, is scholarship support, but really scholarship support that can be directed by the university to fulfill the most immediate needs. Oftentimes, again, scholarships have those restrictions that are only for a subsection of students. But when you can have unrestricted donations that can go to scholarships that can help for a broad section of students, help with gap funding, help fill that hole that they sometimes find themselves in after all aid is applied, that is certainly a plus. Also, in terms of operational support, what allows us to go out there and raise more dollars? What allows us to go out there and do some of the federal lobbying that has to be done in order to really access those dollars at the federal level or even at the state level, and what funds can be used to do that? As we both know, state funds cannot be used for those types of efforts. Right. Some of the travel that you have to do as it relates to that as well. And finally, all of our campuses have to deal with issues such as deferred maintenance, different things that are not in the budget on a yearly basis. So how can we access revenue to deal with those things that do not come through our normal operations, that do not come from those of us who are state supported? State dollars are the tuition dollars. Unrestricted funds can provide some level of income that helps us deal with those issues that, again, we're not able to support through our normal budget. So again, those are the key areas for Jackson State, and I'm sure other HBCUs will echo that as well, how unrestricted donations can be utilized and why they're so important for our institutions.
Thank you.
I concur with my colleagues and will build on what they have provided, particularly when you receive transformative unrestricted gifts. It gives us an opportunity to plan for the future and solidify the institution's base by expanding our endowment. When we typically look at where the level or the amount of funds that are provided, unrestricted or restricted, they oftentimes are not as large, or you don't have those big donations. And so when you do receive those transformative gifts, it gives you an opportunity to invest in your endowments which speaks to the long-term future and stability of the institution. If you look at HBCUs in general, our endowments fail in peril to what our PWI counterparts are. And to make up that gap, it takes a significant amount of lift. And so building those endowments so that you can direct the resources and interests to transformative projects, innovative projects that your general operating budget may not allow you to do. Having those unrestricted funds gives you the opportunity, as Thomas mentioned, you have scholarships. They typically focus on a certain segment, but you can expand that out. Same thing with trying to introduce new initiatives on your campuses, whether that's building endowed chair positions or other type of big initiatives that your typical budget will not allow you to have the sizable, say, salaries or the research dollars that those types of gifts can provide. So unrestricted dollars are huge for our institution, and an area that we are all looking to grow and receive more funding.
Awesome.
Thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Tucker, and to the Delta Sigma Theta organization for all your support. Thank you for the checks that you continue to drop off at Tougaloo. We love taking pictures with those big checks, and so thank you very much. And to my colleagues, I agree with them wholeheartedly. We're always looking for unrestricted dollars. As a private institution, we do not get a stream of funding from the state, so every nickel that we get, we're scratching and asking for other outside of tuition. Tougaloo started a quasi endowment. We have our regular legacy endowment, and the strategic plan for us, this calls for us to try to get to $100 million in our legacy endowment. But we also started a quasi endowment that speaks to people about our needs in the unrestricted category. If you want to restrict those dollars, we are fine with that, but then restrict them to the things we need, like roofs and new library material, digital technology, so we are saying to people, if you want to restrict it, this is our wish list. And so, because we know that people want a return on their investment and they want to have tracking on their dollars. And so we're trying to give them that opportunity. And so the unrestricted dollars become more and more important every day as we look at our students who are coming into higher ed. We know today the Pell Grant, 50 years ago, the Pell Grant paid for almost 75% of the state student tuition. Today, the Pell pays for less than 15%. So there's a gap, and that's what President Hudson talked about, that gap. And so those restricted dollars, unrestricted dollars, if we could say, this student may not be a STEM major, but they need these scholarship dollars to complete their goals and objectives. We want to be able to do that. So there's a great need.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much to my sisters of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for organizing this opportunity and supporting all the colleges that are represented here today. And of course, I feel privileged to work amongst such an esteemed group of educational leaders. And I'll just echo what's already been shared. Of course, Russ College is also a small private institution, so we do not have a stream of funds coming in each year from the state to support us. And so the unrestricted dollars are key, as was mentioned, for student scholarships. But I'll also just kind of hone in on the idea around the deferred maintenance and the need for us to have competitive facilities, because each and every one of us is competing with every other college in the nation for students. And we know that there are other colleges that have much larger endowments or receive more support from public resources. And so when you're a small private, you're going after those same students, and they're looking for the same thing when they come to your campus as far as what you have to offer with facilities. And then also, I would say, even with new programs. So if you want to start new academic programs, having those unrestricted funds gives you the opportunity to do that and to be flexible. If an opportunity arises suddenly, you never know, you may have someone who comes to you and offers to partner on X, and you have to bring matching dollars to the table. And so having unrestricted funds gives you the ability to do so that you don't miss out on a chance to expand what you can offer to your students.
I appreciate you all sharing the importance of, and we're so just elated just to hear about just the critical ways of why we should be funding and how you all are using the funds. So you all are providing the great governance. And I think that's why it's equally important that we continue to encourage others to help provide funding for your institutions. And with that in mind, and I know you all probably have your own strategy, what are some of your institutions doing to educate and encourage current students on the significance of giving back to your organizations?
Well, if I could just jump in there right before I have to leave, but
Right.
I think what we're doing is we're starting to prepare them as alums their freshman year, and understand we have a pre-alumni organization that meets regularly with our National Alumni Association, really helping them to connect with the current alums, but understanding the importance of building our institution for sustainability. I say all the time, I ask the question, how many universities in the country have an endowment of over $1 billion? Over $1 billion. There are over 150 institutions with an endowment of over $1 billion. How many HBCUs have an endowment over $100 million? Less than 10. So it really speaks about how we need to work to continue to build our capacity. I mean, again, we have a history of being sustained and being here, and that needs to continue for the next 100, 200, 300 years. So it's important that as we talk about supporting our institutions, we're talking about how do we build capacity for a lifetime and understand building those endowments and really supporting us today, tomorrow, and 100 years from now is really important. So that's one thing that I think that's important. As we talk to our freshmen, we're preparing them to be alums already.
Right.
So again, I hate I have to run. This is great.
Yeah.
But
well, thank you again.
The conversation will definitely continue. And again, it's good to see everyone. And thanks again.
All right. Well, Dr. Briggs, thank you for the time that you've allotted for this event today. And our president, Gwen Handy, is on the line. She is hoarse, but she wanted me to relate to y'all your gratitude for being here. So thanks again. And thanks for your service and good luck to you.
Great. Thanks again. All right. Take care.
All right.
Ms. Tucker, I would like to answer that as well of what we're doing with our students. We first have engaged all of our students to be on committees at our campus because we're really trying to foster great leadership opportunities. So we work with SGA to say, these are all of our committees. Let's have students, 2 seats for students on all the committees. And one of those committees is a budget committee. Mm-hmm. And it's important that we allow them to be engaged in the budget committee so they can see what it actually takes to run the college. And I recall prior to COVID, we were raising our tuition or wanted to raise our tuition by 5%. And we did all the research looking at all the state institutions in the region and looking at all the private institutions. And we put all that information out there to show them where Tougaloo fit. And so the students looked at that and they said, oh, Madam President, we need to raise it even more, because they realized as a private institution, we had not raised tuition in more than 5 years. And so we were well below some of our dear colleagues' institutions. And so engaging them in these discussions around real budgets and real dollars is a way for them to see how important it is, what percentage of a alumni giving makes up the budget. And so we give them an opportunity to give based on the year, like it's 2022. So we ask them to give $22 to the foundation or to our annual scholarships, and they do it. And if they do that, when they graduate, they get a giving card so that everybody can see that they have supported their institution. And when the other alums see that, they're very excited about the students who are on campus being engaged in the budget process, but also contributing to the budget process. So that's basically how we engage our students to turn them into future donors to the institution.
That's wonderful.
I'll jump in and just share some perspective. We definitely have some work to do here at Rust on our pre-alumni club. It's, kind of had hills and valleys. And it's one of the things where you need to have consistent engagement, not just dependent on who's leading that effort. So that's something that we're working on, and also ensuring that freshmen understand, you introduce that concept, when they're freshmen, and then of course you come back when they're seniors and ask for that first gift. I did that a couple of weeks ago in my senior exit interview. I asked each of them for $20.22 representing the class of 2022 so they could start an endowment. But I think another angle that's very important for us as HBCUs, especially as we talk about giving from younger alumni, is the technology. We have to ensure that we have the platforms that engage them where they are. We have some things that we do that some of our more seasoned alumni, they enjoy. They enjoy getting a fruitcake at Christmas time. But, the folks who graduate within the last 5-10 years, not so much. So we have to make sure that we make it easy for them because they're plugged into technology, that our marketing and communications is using that avenue to connect with them. And then the other thing that we have to do on the front end is ensure that we have consistent and excellent customer service across the institution. Because how many of you have heard stories of people who refuse to give to their alma mater because of some mean person in whatever office, okay? Look, I'm just keeping it real. So that is an area where I think, we have to ensure that we make this a place where they fondly remember their experiences here, and that will, of course, inspire them to give.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I agree with my colleagues and echo those sentiments, and would just add, we're also looking at affinity groups. So those different types of groups where people find some type of affection for the university and using those along with other efforts with pre-alumni. But Ivy's correct, it's the consistency that's important. It's making sure that their experience while they're here and once they leave meets and exceeds their expectation. And the last one I would add is demonstrating that appreciation. So using visual examples of what current alumni, are doing for graduation each year. Our golden class comes back and we make a big deal out of the donation that they give when alums start endowments during football games, basketball games, but giving them that visual representation of, this is what you are expected to do. Pay it forward. That there are those who are supporting your education. And so we likewise, when you graduate, we also need you to support those new students that are coming along to make sure that they have those same opportunities and support.
Right. I really, Dr. Hudson, I'm sorry, you were up to.
No, just the overall student experience, of course, is something we always have to emphasize. Happy students, happy alumni. So definitely that's a major factor in giving, but also in terms of how and what are some of the ways you can give and how do students have access to the money. We did start a financial wellness center here at Jackson State, one of the first of its kind at an HBCU, which goes into detail about budgeting, about how do you prioritize your spending in a way that allows you to give and allows you to have access to funds to give? So again, all of those things, just that holistic approach that the other presidents have talked about is very important if we're going to elevate our overall giving rate. And that's something that's not often talked about. We talk about the amount of dollars actually given, but what percentage of your alumni do give? That's been a point of emphasis at Jackson State University. We know it's something that potential foundations and other funders look at. How much skin in the game do your alumni have as it relates to giving to the university? So at Jackson State, again, that's something we're heavily emphasizing, not just the amount you give, but how do you actually be counted and what goes into that alumni rate, and then how can we enhance that?
I just want to make an appeal based off of that, President Hudson, because we all need our alums to understand exactly that. If you go to our payroll department and just do a payroll deduction of $20 a month, $10 a month, that speaks volumes to other donors for us to be able to say 60%. I mean, I wish we were at 60%, right? 60% of our alums are giving back. That percentage for us is very low. And we need everybody to do a little bit, right? And then when that percentage goes up, we're walking around proud to say our alums are supporting. And Tougaloo has excellent support from our alums. I really have to say they do a phenomenal job, but we all know that the room for improvement is the biggest room in the world. And so if everybody from each one of our institutions, from Valley, from Alcorn, Jackson State, and Rust, if you could just find it in your heart to do just a little bit on a consistent basis, we do these payroll deductions without any issue, without any problem. And then you will see the percentages rise. And I think that would be so, so important if that is something that comes out of this campaign of When They See Us.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. I think that's amenable. I think we all could at least take initiative and do that. I don't know how many folks that are actually on the line, but I hope all are listening and taking heed to what you're saying, because this is some great feedback. I know at our last town hall discussion, we had over 3,000 viewers, I believe, and about 300 people on the line. So we reached a number of folks. So we're going to have to continuously have these types of conversations so that folks out there understand the relevance of supporting our HBCUs. And with that being said, we have some special guests on the line who's joined us as well. We have two of our national DREF people that are joining us, and that's Dr. Alicia K. Russi. And I hope I said that right, but she's a program manager, Research Matters for all of us. She wanted us to know, what is that hashtag, the I love. She was with the Federal City Alumni Chapter in DC. So she's with us, as well as DeMarcus Haywood, who is a Collegiate Engagement Associate at Delta Research and Educational Foundation, JSU alum. So it's good to have all of our partners out there. So the more we hear that join us and hear this information, the more they are able to relay it. And as they say, it takes all of us to make this happen. So thank you all for your feedback and your charge to each one of us, those of us that are graduates and those of us that are just supporters of HBCUs. This, in fact, lets us know the various ways how we can continue to support. So thank you for that. So another question I have here, it says, in an article written by Dr. Michael L. Lomax, he's with the United Negro College Fund, it states that HBCUs outperform non-HBCU institutions in retaining and graduating first-generation, low-income African-American students. So the question is, what do the HBCUs do differently to help low-income first-generation college students? So either one of you could take that.
Well, I'll certainly start off. It's very interesting. You hear a lot of different buzzwords in higher ed and the overall higher ed landscape, one of which student success, intrusive advising, which is something that HBCUs have been doing since the beginning of time. That's been our model. And that simply means our professors get involved. The academic counselors get involved, your department chairs, your deans they all get involved, and they get involved with the individual student. And all of us have stories about, who attended HBCUs, about that professor, about that financial aid advisor, about the academic counselor who took the time with us to either walk us through the process, to make sure that we were doing what we were supposed to do. And that helped give us that lift we needed to go ahead and launch and succeed from where we were. And that's just been the quintessential HBCU story all along. And what you're seeing now is, other PWIs and even some minority serving institutions adopting the models that have been in practice at HBCUs for a number of years, really trying to determine and learn that secret sauce that allows us to punch well above our weight in terms of educating students from backgrounds which traditionally do not lend itself to college and student success. It's something that we have to continue to do. We have to continue to up our game, modernize, do the things that are necessary to continue that success story. But again, what you're seeing is that models being put in place by larger, more well-resourced institutions are simply copied from the HBCU success story that we've all had since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I love that secret sauce, Dr. Hudson. I like that. I'm going to agree with you, and I know my other two sisters are ready to jump in. I always say we provide many touches, and that's what Dr. Hudson, I almost called you pastor. Is there something out there that I need to know?
Not at all.
But that's what we provide, many touches, and that whole idea around we will help you succeed, and you're going to succeed whether you want to or not, because we're going to really be engaged with you and making sure that we have the support services and the wraparound services that students need in these labs, and not making students feel less than because they need these kinds of services. We have this partnership with Brown University, and we were talking to them about our food pantry and our clothing closet. And we were talking to Brown University students who said, that is amazing. And why do you provide that? And we told them, we assume that students need those things. They don't have to ask us. We come prepared knowing that they need these kinds of extra support systems in place. And I think that's what HBCUs will always provide. And I, if I don't have it, I know somebody else has it. And we have these community partners who come together to help us educate these students. We go from the philosophy of it does take a village.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Well, President Hudson was very eloquent in kind of answering that question. I certainly agree that this is kind of built into how we operate at HBCUs to be intrusive with our students. And I think just to, I guess, go a little deeper as to the why is because, frankly, many of the faculty and staff can relate to the students and their experiences, where they came from, what their family challenges may be, and what kind of support they may or may not have. And so that gives us a little extra insight and the ability to then better meet those needs. Many of our students describe our institutions as having a family-like atmosphere. And so who wants to disappoint Big Mama? That gives them the motivation to want to excel because they feel embraced by the faculty and the staff, and they have those personal connections. I think that's definitely part of the reason for our successes.
Awesome.
I concur. We provide a holistic experience for our students while at the same time providing them a relevant, transformative experience that keeps them competitive, whether they're going into the workforce directly or into graduate school. It's important that we focus on the whole student, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. And so you see the tradition, the cultural things that our students can identify with, they're familiar with, and makes them feel even more confident in what it is that they're trying to achieve, and knowing that they have support systems around them from the faculty, the staff, and the alumni and community to ensure that they are successful. We meet the students where they are to help them get to where they need to go. That has been our tradition. We get better at it. It has to evolve as our students evolve. It cannot be the same type of wraparound services or approach. I haven't mentioned the fruit cake. We can't deliver it the same way, but the essence of how we support those students remains the same. Human nature, human needs are the same. We just have to make sure that we continue to provide it in a way that they can receive it based on where we are in this current landscape. And so HBCUs fill that gap, they fill that void. We are the community leaders in terms of educating our students and making sure that they are prepared.
Wow, this is great. And before I move on to the next question, I also want to send a shout out to Ms. Thelma James Day. She is a national committee member, and also a JSU alum. I told y'all this was going to get competitive, okay? If I spend my time recognizing all these folks, we're going to be on here much longer, but we do appreciate them joining this thoughtful conversation. So I don't want to move too far from some of the comments that we're getting in the chat. So I just want to say, Dr. Walters, they like that idea about payroll deduction. So I suppose this is directed to you directly. It says, have you considered having a donation basket? I guess we can ask all of you that. Have you considered having a donation basket during games and ask alumni and fans to donate?
That's an excellent idea. We have basketball games, and we don't get the crowd that our college across the street gets, Thomas Hudson, right? So the people who are at our games are the ones who are giving. But I tell you what we have done. We have something online called a wish list. So you may not have money to give me today, but you can buy a couple of gallons of paint. You can buy, we have a whole list of things that we need, and they're very practical. And so from our wish list, we got a brand new 5-ton air conditioning unit from an alum who has a business, an air conditioning business. We got 10,000 square feet of tile from another alum that owns a hardware store, and we take all gifts. So go to our website, go to give, and you will see we have an online way for you to click, and you can buy everything from a gallon of paint to carpet tiles to whatever you think you want to give. But we have not done the basket. When Dr. Hudson does his basket at the game, I'm going to be behind him with a smaller one. Since I buy a season ticket at his games, so they're our football team. So I might think about that. That's a great idea. We'll talk to the coach here about that and see if we can do that.
That's awesome. So one of the comments says, of course, they agreed also that this is a fabulous idea. And so they said, why don't you do it at all the home games? And also they said, hey, don't send them to the website. They said, do it on the site. So we have some folks out there who are anxious to give.
Look, we're taking all that advice. I'll be out there collecting at the next game. We'll be ready for it.
So here's a question also from chat. It says, would you please comment on the recently passed legislation that places serious restrictions on academic freedom, First Amendment speech guarantees, and academic tenure? Did y'all hear the question? I'm sorry, I was looking down. Okay.
Yes, I'm not aware of specific legislation that curtails tenure or anything like that. I know for us, we'll always protect the academic freedom of our professors. That's really how we function in the academy. The ability of your professors to not just speak out about matters of interest, but also engage in that programmatic line of research that aligns with their goals, with their objectives, with their interests, and be able to do so in a way that without interference from the administration, from the institution, or from outside entities. We've always protected that right at Jackson State University, and we will continue to do so. And there's really no legislation that's been passed that restricts our ability to do so either.
Mm-hmm.
I would just add, I think they're referring to some of the states who are restricting faculty from teaching critical race theory. And they are saying to those faculty members that if they are to include this in their curriculum, that tenure will be removed. And so these states are voting on these policies locally. That is a big challenge, because once you get that power at the local level, we know how important local politics is, and it just moves up the chain. So we're keeping an eye on that at Tougaloo, and we're constantly writing statements against these kinds of things. It's all a part of our social justice mission. And so we think that critical race theory is important. It needs to be shared, it needs to be taught, and we don't think people need to be punished because they tell their point of view on a theory or tell their point of view on academic research. So that's some of the issues, and I think some of the states are really looking at that. I know Texas is one of those states, and I don't want to get into calling out names, but we do know that that is the attack. The attack is on critical race theory.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that underscores the importance for us all to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Our next question, thank you all for that. Could you speak a little bit about, and I know you all joined us a few months ago and these questions were asked of, but because we have a vast audience, we still want this information to get out so that our people will understand the relevance of HBCUs and to give. So with that in mind, can you speak a little bit about why students should choose to attend HBCUs?
I think we've touched on these answers a little bit in talking about how it's a family-oriented environment, the intrusive advising, and the focus on getting close to the student and providing innovative types of support, whether that be a food pantry or elsewhere. So I think those are kind of contrast points. And I'll say from a personal perspective that I did not attend an HBCU. And so I know what it was like to be at an Ivy League institution and feel that there really was not anyone on the faculty or staff who had a real interest in me, my success, what I did after college. I always, well, let me back up. I always give the footnote. Well, first I say, oh, there wasn't anyone at that school, but there was the cook in the dining hall. I was a server in the law school dining hall. And the gentleman who was the cook there, he invited me to his church. But there wasn't anyone on the faculty or staff who, seemed to have an interest. And I think at a larger school, a larger state school, this was a private school that was of fair size, but it's very easy for our students to get lost, to feel lost if everything is kind of unfamiliar or doesn't resonate with their, cultural background, heritage, or they don't see themselves reflected in the faculty and staff. HBCUs also have, everyone's talking about diversity right now, but HBCUs have always had very diverse faculty, coming from different ethnic backgrounds and nationalities and perspectives. So I think that's also benefit of the experience. And then the last thing I'll say is just, those wonderful traditions that, we have, whether it be, the bands or the fraternities and sororities and other student organizations or connections to local community. Those are all things that people enjoy while they're experiencing it and look back on fondly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I echo Dr. Taylor's comment. As a graduate of HBCU and went on to get a PhD in engineering at a PWI, I personally understand the importance of being at an HBCU, a place that nurtures, that helps to build your confidence, that you have an opportunity to learn in an environment where you can still develop and grow personally. Coming in as an 18-year-old student, there's so much about life in the world that I didn't know, that I had the opportunity to learn and make mistakes, while at the same time build my educational acumen without the fear of prejudice, of some of the things that I went on to experience at a PWI. And it just was a different kind of learning experience there. And so, we're still about that business and developing young adults. And there's nothing that I wasn't able to do having graduated from a HBCU. I've been able to go all around the world to present on different panels, to receive funding for my research and the like, and then have the opportunity to come back and lead the very institution that I graduated from. And so, it's a personalized experience that you may not always get at a PWI institution. That people care. And it's not to say that there aren't individuals at those institutions that care, but it's a different kind of experience that grows you, that develops you, and help to build your confidence in ways that you never lose.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I will add, I had a colleague that worked at Tougaloo for a short period of time, and she went to a PWI early on and worked at Tougaloo, and she said something to me that I repeat a lot. She said, this is an interesting place. She said, HBCUs, students can see themselves, find themselves, and be themselves. And I love that statement, and I use it all the time. And I think to the parent who's listening and undecided whether their son or daughter should go to an HBCU, and to that student who's undecided, I will tell you that our students are the value proposition to the world. As we are trying to fill these corporate areas, raise entrepreneurs at our institution, grow scientists who look like Dr. Nave, grow lawyers who look like Dr. Hudson, and mayors and leaders who look like Dr. Russ, Dr. Ivy Taylor. Those people are graduating from institutions that have HBCU on their names. And when we think about the sophomores and juniors who are in STEM and the graduates who are in STEM, we make up, I guess, less than 4% of the population of colleges, but we're putting out more than 15 to 20%, maybe higher than that, of the STEM graduates. So this is a proposition that you should not pass. And as a student who went to 2 HBCUs, one for my bachelor's and my master's, and a PWI for my doctorate, I can tell you I was more than prepared. And I felt so comfortable when I walked into that room, and I was the only African American in the room. It didn't bother me not one bit. And the same thing for my daughter, who went to an HBCU and is now at a PWI, getting a PhD, doing research with faculty. She's not intimidated at all. And she went to Grambling State University, both my daughters, and they're both in white schools getting these high-level degrees. We take our time to prepare students to have success, and we encourage them and build their confidence so that when they walk out on graduation day, that's why our graduations have gospel songs and hands waving and foot stumping and clapping and hugging, because we know what we are producing. We know what we're putting out there, and we are proud of that product. I'm watching everybody's graduation online because it's church every time I watch it. It's revival every time I watch it, because we are putting those students into the world to represent a culture that is like none other. And so I would say, choose us. We will do you good.
Wow. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I could possibly even add to that, except to add to what any of these presidents have said, except to say ditto, ditto to everything. And just kind of the confidence that you see emanate from these responses is indicative of what you do get from HBCUs and just that HBCU experience. Seeing yourself in all levels of leadership, which is unfortunately not an opportunity that you will have at a PWI. So again, just the confidence, the ability to see yourself in all level of leaderships is just a part of that HBCU experience that really can't be replicated anywhere else.
Mm. So with that in mind, are there any major challenges that HBCUs are facing?
Absolutely.
So can you speak to it? I mean, what are those challenges? Mhm.
Well, we talk a lot about the moment that we're in, and I was asked this question recently about the publicity and all that happens. What do you think about the great publicity HBCUs are getting? And again, it's somewhat of a double-edged sword because it almost speaks to maybe being invisible on some level prior to, and that certainly wasn't the case. We were all here, we were all doing the great work. Jackson State has been here for 145 years, producing your doctors, your lawyers, your STEM educators, your teachers across the economic spectrum, really providing that great diversity and African-American leadership. And we've always been here. So if there's a challenge that we're facing, it's that what's happening now that's going to be sustainable in the future in terms of funding, in terms of this HBCU moment that we're in. What is happening now that we're going to be able to use to sustain us in the future? We all face major challenges in terms of funding. Years of underfunding led to deferred maintenance, led to the need for newer and more modern programs. Scholarships, the ability to help meet our students' needs and help meet our students where they are financially is an ability that a lot of HBCUs do not have. So how do we continue the momentum, and how do we sustain what's happening now to help us continue to build in the future? Just holistically, that's one of the major challenges that I see across the HBCU landscape.
I agree. And, we're not immune to the general challenges that are happening in higher ed in general, or just the general things that are happening in the country. And so, if we look at workforce, we're all dealing with the challenges related to workforce and making sure that you can hire and retain individuals who can deliver the quality and relevant education you need or provide the other services. You have hot areas such as IT. In nursing, there's a nursing shortage on nursing educators. And so it's a perpetual thing that we deal with as well. And it gets more acute depending on your location and what that local environment looks like to attract. We're also dealing with just, the national buzz with students and why do they need a degree? What's the importance? If I can get a certification, or if I can start off now as a general manager at Walmart making $200,000, why do I go and invest 4 years in getting a degree? In most states, and in our state in particular, we're dealing with declining population, which also translates into declining high school graduates. But we all are still, expected to grow enrollments where so you got to look for different pipelines and pools of students to attract to come into the institution. And as our job market becomes more technical in what it needs for a workforce, making sure that there's greater alignment with K-12 and higher ed, so that the students we're bringing in have the technical acumen and to be prepared to be ready for the types of jobs that are moving forward in the workforce. And with those changes comes the requirement and need to change your equipment, your technology, your software, your classrooms. And when your funding isn't where it needs to be to begin with, those type of changes and technology is expensive, just kind of further exacerbates what our challenges look like. But even in all of that, there continues to be opportunities, and as we look as a community to find effective efficiencies in how we deliver, which gets back to your original question about those unrestricted gifts, and looking for more of those types of opportunities to help us address these real world challenges that are coming at us daily.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking at the things that Dr. Hudson shared, President Hudson shared as Roman numeral 1, and Dr. Nave is Roman numeral 2. And I think those are two big rocks, and we can throw a lot of little things around those, because with me, when President Hudson said, it's a moment in time, and we need people to think about us as eternity in our gifts, that it needs to be continuous giving. We've gotten some very large gifts, and people say to me, oh, you got those one-offs, but we are trying to make sure this is a consistent thing, and that is a challenge for us, in addition to people seeing us like, oh, all of a sudden you guys are doing something great. No, not really. We've been doing this for a long time, and 100 years is a long time, and each one of these institutions have been in place for well over 100 years. So I think if you do something for 100 years, you're getting it right. And so I'm excited about the whole opportunity. I want to look for the day, Ms. Tucker, when someone does not have to say, why are you relevant? I'm looking for the day. And I want people to stop, although we have this declaration of HBCUs, my college is different from Alcorn is different from Jackson State. So don't judge me by what happened at another college in Carolina. Don't just lump us all. If another college in Carolina fails an audit, they say in the media, oh, those HBCUs. No, all of us did not fail an audit. All of us are not having some issues that we may be closing tomorrow. Don't lump us. When the PWIs some of them had issues with selling admissions, they did not lump all of them together. They named the schools who was doing the admissions issues. I promise you, if that was one HBCU, Dr. Nave, it would have been all those HBCUs selling admissions. So while we have this designation, we are very different in nature. And so there is a way for us to be celebrated. And I love that. But don't take us all down into the gutter if one mistake is made by one institution. Let's hold that institution up. Let's help that institution. And don't get on social media saying, oh, there they go, those HBCUs. That's just not what we need. And I'm talking to our people. I'm not talking to the media. I'm talking to our people who love us on homecoming. And then when we have one little thing happen, they tear us up. So we have to be consistent in our love and consistent in our support. And so I would say, if what Dr. Hudson said is Roman number 1 and Dr. Nave said is Roman number 2, this is Roman number 3. Support us as individual institutions and support us for the excellence that we provide continuously.
Wow.
Just very briefly, just expound on one point that Dr. Nave made about the declining population. It's not just here in Mississippi, it's across the nation. Certain demographic groups are declining in population, and so that's putting us in a position where there's more intense competition for students, because now suddenly schools who never thought about recruiting Black students, they are more motivated to do so because they need to keep their enrollment up, and there's a declining population. So the competition, that is a challenge for us, and I believe we can meet it, but we've got to tell our story. We can't rest on our laurels. Many HBCUs have just been so steeped in tradition, they just expect people to for alums to continue sending their kids here and so forth. But our current generation of students have a lot of options, and they have a lot of other institutions that are reaching out to them. And then the other challenge that I would mention, someone touched on it briefly, but the challenge of what's happening in K through 12. We know that our minority students are often underserved by their public school districts, and they are graduating not prepared for college level work. That means when they get to us, we've got to invest more resources to be able to help them succeed. So that's a larger public policy issue, but it is a challenge for us as HBCUs, because for many of us, our missions go back to, reaching out and helping those who would not have had an opportunity otherwise.
Wow. This is all great information. When I look at you, you don't see those challenges on your face. As the elderly used to say, you wear your expressions on your face, but you all do extremely well. And to get personal, your presidents, and I personally think that you do a tremendous job in being a president of your institution. And I commend you for all the work that you've done and what you've vowed to continue to do. One of the questions I like to ask you personally is, given all these challenges that you have, I mean, you all are instrumental in our future workforce, current and future, in our leadership. When persons leave your school, I know that you keep up with them and you want to know how they're faring. And for the most part, you have a very critical role in the development of many of us. And I certainly have to say, for the I love, it has certainly shaped my future and everything that I do. I give credit to my institution as well as all of you because we have some affiliations. With that in mind, I have to ask you, what is your motivation? What drives you to continue in this line of work? You are a president. And it's a tremendous role. I mean, it probably doesn't phase you, but I know that when you're walking on campus, you see that there are people that are looking up to you because they know that you're driving their future or their kids' future or relative or what have you. So I want to know personally, what's your motivation?
I have
know
to
what?
say this is a calling, definitely. You
Mhm.
know, this I've heard it described as mission work by some other presidents. And for me, definitely, you know, as someone who did not attend an HBCU, but I served on the board of trustees of an HBCU, and that's when I really fell in love with, you know, just the institutions, the culture, the mission. And so I think, you know, you stay motivated by thinking about the impact that you've had. I mean, you listen to, sometimes you go to, you know, events or you have alumni come and they talk about the difference that the college made in their lives. I met a Russ College alum down in Jackson. I was visiting a church and he just held my hand and cried and talked about how Russ gave him an opportunity when no one else would, and that, you know, his attending this school was responsible for, you know, basically changing the trajectory of his life and I'm sure his children's lives. So, you know, when you have those reminders of the difference that this work makes, I mean, that really is motivating, even though it is difficult work.
You know, it's very interesting. You know, I kind of bring it back to a couple of weeks that happened in the course of an academic year. The first is commencement week, when, you know, you get to see the fulfillment of dreams as students launch from our HBCU, from Jackson State, Tougaloo, Alcorn, Russ College, really into the stratosphere, into the place of their dreams. And you hear the stories. You know, we do a commencement series where you hear the stories, you hear about the struggles. You get to talk to parents, you get to talk to alums, you get to talk to children of graduates. And it's such just a wonderful time of year to really see dreams come true and to know that you played a small role in that as the leader of an HBCU. And the second time is during Welcome Week in the fall when we get to start it all over again. And what a wonderful opportunity to do what you love, to do it on a yearly basis, helping students fulfill their dreams, whether they're launching from your university to their next career or whether they're starting at your university, coming from all walks of life, all demographics. Some are first generation students, some are fifth generation alums of alums coming to your university to really become the person they were meant to be. Just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to impact so many lives. And I can't think of another profession than HBCU presidents to have that opportunity to do so on a basis that affects our entire community and our entire race. Just a wonderful, wonderful thing that really helps keep me going. And it's really a calling and a mission, as others have said.
Mhm.
I echo Dr. Hudson and Dr. Taylor. It's a purpose and it's the opportunity to really make a difference. There are a number of ways that we are called upon to give back and to serve in our financial benefits, but also in our time and in our service and in our knowledge. And, you know, we all talk about that this great place, it made us, it did all these wonderful things for us. And it launched us to be able to go to different places, be in different spaces. And so it also means that when the opportunity presents itself to come back and to give of what you've had an opportunity to learn, the experiences you've had an opportunity to have, the networks and spaces that you've had the opportunity to be in that can benefit your institution or HBCU community in general, which you know only goes to develop and generate that next generation of leaders. It's your personal mission, and it's your personal calling to do so.
Awesome.
Now, I will say, it doesn't mean that I don't know how my colleagues feel. It don't mean every day you feel that way. There are some days you can let a lot of folks have it, but the good far outweighs the bad. There are far more days that you're just elated and humbled by the opportunity to serve.
Right.
Ms. Tucker, I'm going to say it's the money for me. No, I wish that were the case. But it's actually the students. It's, as everybody has said, it's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to do this work. It's my responsibility to respond and to be engaged with students. It's my responsibility to support faculty. It's just my responsibility. I'm not called to do anything else but this. I've done this work for more than 24 years, and I can't see me doing anything else. It's what I was built to do, it's what I was called to do, and it's just my responsibility to do it. And when days get rough, I've had some real hard hills to climb with losing my husband and my father and 2 brothers and 2 sister-in-laws. And you wonder, is the Book of Carmen up there somewhere? But then you think about what you were called to do and what you were built to do, what you were designed to do. When they design a dress, you can only wear it. That's all you can do. And so I try to wear my gift and wear my calling. And when things get hard, I know who called me, and I can go and talk to him about it. And that's what this is all about for me. It's my responsibility. I can't do anything else.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. This conversation could go on and on and on because we have plenty of questions for you. We're having messages or questions still coming in. So why don't we do this to wrap up? Final words. Any final words that you have for those of us that are on the line tonight? If you would take about 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes to tell us any final words that you may have.
I will say the road from Tougaloo College, and I'm talking to the mothers and the students out there, the road from Tougaloo College can take you anywhere you want to go. And if you would give us a chance, an opportunity to work with your son and daughter, we promise we will embrace them and help them get to true success, just like every other institution on here. But I just want to say that the road from here, it can take you anywhere.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else has any final word?
Well, I'll say that it's a really exciting time to be at Russ College. I've been here for, it'll be 2 years next month as president and first woman serving in this role. And so we have a lot of energy and excitement about just elevating the institution, building on the tremendous heritage and history that we have. We're the oldest HBCU in the state of Mississippi, founded in 1866. And so we are entering what we're referring to as our period of Rustian Renaissance, and kind of paralleling the Harlem Renaissance. And so I certainly encourage parents and students to consider Rust and all of our HBCUs. But I also, my message for those who may be on the line who did not attend an HBCU is to encourage you that they're all worthy of your support, both your financial support and as well as partnerships that you can provide. I think it's important that even if you did not attend one, to understand the impact that they have on the Black community and how they've basically created the Black middle class. and almost any leader that you see in our society today, and that our mission is still relevant. So we need the support of, you know, beyond just alumni to continue to rise to the occasion. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
And I'd just like to thank Delta Sigma Theta for this wonderful opportunity, the Jackson Alumni Chapter, for your commitment to putting on an additional session. I think it's always great and wonderful when we as a community have the opportunity to have some real dialogue and real talk about the things that impact our institutions, because these are our institutions. And it's important that we remain educated in our community to know not only what the current needs are, but what the needs of the future, and the wonderful and phenomenal things that these institutions are doing. Everyone on this call, all of the institutions are doing a fantastic job at educating students in the state of Mississippi and across the world. We don't always get the credit that we deserve, but it really is about changing lives, and that is something that I think everyone here can be proud of and proud about in terms of what our institutions are doing. Alcorn State University is doing phenomenal things as well. We're looking forward to forging ahead, continuing to create opportunities, making sure that we have the most transformative, relevant experience for our students, and that we're connecting them to the jobs and to the places, and that as the leaders of this institution, we're in the places that are needed to advocate for our students and for our great university's growth and continued success. So thank you again for this wonderful opportunity.
A pleasure. Okay.
And I would just like to echo the thanks. Thank you, Shirley, for doing such a wonderful job moderating this session. Felicia, Carmen, Ivy, and of course, Gerald in his absence. It's always a wonderful opportunity to be in your presence, to learn from you, to bounce ideas. In some ways, this is a therapy session. We all have the type of jobs where we need to come together and really just talk and discuss, but be able to do so in an open forum so people can see us and really see the greatness of our institutions through our leadership. So I just thank you so much for this opportunity. Jackson State, will continue to thrive. We'll continue to be that affordable choice for those highly qualified students. And whether it's through our MSW program that we offer online, because we know the population that we serve and need to offer those options, continuing to be a top producer of African-American engineers, all of the highly qualified things that are happening on this campus. We just want everyone to continue to invest in Jackson State University, continue to send us your students, continue to make JSU your choice. But again, I thank you all so much just for this opportunity. This was wonderful, and we certainly have to do this again often.
Well, you all have done a magnificent job. I don't know if I were a parent or if I had to decide on a college now. I mean, honest, I don't know which direction I would go. This is amazing. Everyone should be able to have a group such as yours, just to hear all the great things that you're doing and what you're offering to the students and the community. And so we just certainly appreciate you. So again, on behalf of our chapter and all the listeners out there, thank you so much for your time that you've given to us. And so at this point, I'd like to, if they'll go ahead and put up that link, we want to encourage those that are out there to please continue to give. We have not made our mark yet. We're doing great. We'll be doing greater if you would donate. We have again until May 31st, and we will, of course, provide the donations at the end of that to each one of our institutions, just to aid to the great work that you are doing. So again, I want to thank you. I want to thank our national people that have joined us as well. And of course, Dr. James, our president, did want to note that you are her line sister, and so grateful that she was able to get you on the line again to be a part of this discussion, because I don't know if you presidents know that our conversation, there's a lot of conversations that go on how we can assist with our HBCUs, whether we graduated from it or what have you. We're just elated of the work that you're doing in our community. We're grateful for your leadership. We're grateful to have folks like you as our partners. And so we hope to continue this dialogue. We hope this is a long-lasting relationship, whereas not just members of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, but also as citizens of this community, we want to ensure that you're getting the proper funding so that we can continue to make great leaders out of your institutions. So you should be proud, because we're proud of you. And again, I want to encourage all of those out there to please continue to donate. Our goal again was $100,000. We're very close. I think, again, I said 80, but it may be more than that. But again, continue to give, ask others to give. It's a tax write-off. Please donate to our schools. You may have gotten other requests to donate, which I have. I know there are other sororities that are doing this as well. But either way, we want you to give to these great institutions. And so if nothing else, we're right at the hour. It's 7:15. I'm a stickler for time. And I want to again thank everyone, again, the committee, our president, Gwendolyn Handy, and of course, I serve as a Mississippi Social Action coordinator. So it's a pleasure to see all of our social action chairs throughout the state of Mississippi. We have over 30 chapters, and they all have their hands in supporting this initiative. So again, we're grateful for your work, and we're going to continue to work together collaboratively as a team. So thanks again for your time and your effort. And to our audience, and enjoy your evening.